How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Down to Earth with me, Kristian Harloff. Thanks for joining us here today on the show. We have a lot of stuff, man. There's tons. Yes, Lue Elizondo. He was just on Joe Rogan. He was just on NewsNation. He's been on a lot of things. He talked to George Knapp recently. There's so much that he's doing. His new book, Eminent, just came out, and there's a lot of talk, as we knew that there would be once he was out there talking about this. And it's opening up more and more conversation, as we knew that it would. The full deep dive into what Lue talked about and all that, we're going to cover tomorrow on UAP Tuesday. Mark Riley is going to join me tomorrow, and we're going to do a full kind of deep dive on everything that was discussed, what it means kind of moving forward. And so join us tomorrow morning on our hour-long podcast where we'll talk about all of that. But everybody's been discussing it, and inside one of those interviews with Ross Coulthart, they asked Lue if he would be testifying at the next hearing. And he said that, if he's asked, he would absolutely testify. And there's been all this talk about when the actual hearings will happen, if they're going to happen. And it seems more and more that these things are happening, but it's just a matter of when. Will it be September? Will it be October? Will it be November? Who knows? But one of the people that's been leading that charge is Tim Burchett. He was interviewed by NewsNation. Here's the interview itself, and then we'll talk about some of the things said on the other side.
And one U.S. representative who has been among the chorus calling for more government transparency regarding UAPs, Tim Burchett, joining us now. Representative, thank you for taking the time on your birthday, no less. Happy birthday. We appreciate it.
Yeah, I never thought I'd get to be 60. Here I am.
Here you are. Representative, given the increasing numbers of individuals who are coming forward with claims about UAPs, do you believe the government can still credibly deny its involvement or its awareness?
No, ma'am, it can't. For I don't know, over a decade. For decades, they say they didn't exist. They weren't investigating. Then now they won't release the files. My buddy Lue Elizondo is an American hero. He's got a new book coming out. I can't wait to read it. But he is correct. They are every time we turn around, we have some little smart aleck kid with a man bun telling us in one of these government facilities telling us they don't exist. And then I say, well, what about this incident, or what about this report? And they'll say, well, I don't have anything on that. I don't know what you're talking about. It's just, it goes on and on and on. What's going to happen, ma'am? We're going to have a president with the guts to say, let's release all of them. Let's turn them loose. The American public can handle it. This has been a cover up for whatever reason. I don't know where they're coming from. I don't know where. But man, when I talk to the best pilots in the world, one of them told me, he said, Tim, this thing was 14 feet from my canopy. I could not misidentify it. He didn't say 15 feet. He didn't say 20. He said 14. And, it just goes on and on. I talked to former admirals, people in the intelligence agency. It's not just, some redneck from Tennessee who says, something's going on. I've never seen anything that I couldn't identify. But I've talked to a lot of qualified people who are. And those videos you're seeing right now are taken by our military personnel that the government said did not exist, and they cannot explain those.
I hear that. And I know your message tonight, turn them loose. As a Republican, how do you reconcile the need for national security with the public's right to know about potential encounters with any non-human technology?
Well, it goes deeper than that. As an American, ma'am, I think that the American public has a right to know. It's not national security. They use it to cover up this thing with national security. Granted, if some of our secret apparatus is filming this at some certain location we're not supposed to be at, I understand that. But there's just too much. And if we have credible people telling us that they have recovered craft, recovered bodies, and dadgummit, we ought to be able to see that information and just quit with the cover up. It just makes no sense whatsoever. It's an arrogance. It's about power. It's about money. It's about all those things that drives both political parties. And let's be honest, they're both crooked. Both parties are crooked. Ours just happens to be a little less crooked than theirs is.
Very quickly, Representative, can we expect any new congressional hearings with new whistleblowers on the horizon?
Yes, ma'am. We'll be announcing something. I will not be chairing it, but they wouldn't allow me to do it. But there's going to be some others that are, and I'd be very satisfied with them. We'll have I believe, one of our female members of Congress will be chairing that committee. And we're going to get to the bottom of a lot of things. We're going to call some people in, and they're going to point some fingers, and they're going to name some names. So
we'll be watching.
I say let's get it on.
All right, Representative Tim Burchett, always appreciate your time. Thank you.
So there's Tim Burchett, and he's talking about these things. And I think one of the most telling things that when you hear it, you really, it makes a lot of sense. And if you've been watching me lately, I've been a little not skeptical of the whole thing. I mean, that's never changed. As far as I believe there's stuff going on. I've been skeptical of okay, we keep saying things are going to happen. We're getting something in January. We're getting something here. They're going to get in for more information. It's going to happen. And it's like, is it? Another thing shot down. And I've been getting discouraged, I think, more so than anything else. I'm not going to tell you that I haven't been a little bit more encouraged over the last couple of days. And one of the things that was said in that clip was the question when the reporter asked Burchett, is it harder and harder for the government to keep denying when all these people are coming out? And he said, yeah, it is. It's just harder for them to deny it at this point. And it's something that Lue Elizondo talked about, I think, on Rogan and these other things, is that for the last, whenever it was, in the 1950s and all the way up until, into the 2000s, harder to keep people, easier, I should say, to keep people silent on this topic because there was no support through social media. You put a clip out like the thing at the end here that we'll just talk about a little bit about the hearings. And that little clip out can post on somebody's Twitter, get shared enough, and then thousands of people have seen it. The amount of clips that have gone out from Lue talking, the amount of clips that went out when Grush was here, the amount of support that people get now is one. And I'm an advocate against social media in general. I think it's been the destruction of humans in the way that they behave with one another. But in this situation, it's a major positive, and it's a major way to get people who are trying to keep others silent. It's impossible to keep them silent. And one little thing shared on social media goes viral, and then how do you keep that quiet? You can't. And so that's what is so important with the information now that is coming out, and why it is so hard to keep people quiet, because it's like, oh yeah, that person's not going to talk. And then a clip goes out and they go, how are we going to keep that? What are we going to do now? So it leads to that question of the hearings, right? And she asked him at the very end, she says, are there going to be hearings? And he's like, yes. And so he kind of reiterates what we've heard, that they're going to do this hearing, that it's going to be, and I think Luna said this also, that it's going to be someone else, and it's going to be a woman that's going to be running it. We all thought that it would be Gillibrand, but then when Pavel was talking to Matt Laszlo doesn't think that's the case. I forgot the name that he gave Pavel when he was talking to him on his show, but it does seem like it's going to be someone else. Burchett seems to be on board, but what he also said was interesting, is that they won't let me do it. I wonder what that is. Is that because he's not like a senior member? I wonder why that is that he's not. And he's also gotten himself in the news sometimes for saying things that he probably shouldn't say. But I think overall, whoever it is that's running it, having him out, having them just take care of this thing and have some information out there that's really going to start to turn it, because as we will discuss tomorrow in tomorrow's show, that the difference of what has happened over the last year is that the first stage was saying, okay, there are things flying around in the sky. We know that there are things. We know that the government had programs to try to find out what that is. We know that they have a place called Arrow that also looks into this thing. We know that we had David Grush who was working on it. We had this guy, Lue Elizondo, Chris Mellon. We had these people who were involved in the program in general, right? That were involved in all this stuff in general. That was the major thing to let everybody know about. This wave that just happened, this is straight up saying, no, yeah, what Grush said about the bodies that they were discovered, yeah, fact. And there's other things that we're going to run with tomorrow, is that Lue Elizondo straight out says we are not alone, and that the answer that we've been looking for, it's not a matter. He's not talking about what's in the sky. He's talking about what's in these things that are in the sky, in the oceans, all these other things. That seems to be the next wave of what they're going to try to get to. If they start talking about this stuff in hearings, it would be just negligent if mainstream media was not covering this. Once these hearings happen, and inside of these hearings, there are more people who are out talking about these things in general, then fingers have to start getting pointed at these news networks that are not covering this thing. If the hearings in general, if they do have new hearings and they're not covered, then fingers need to be pointed. But overall, the idea that these hearings are going to happen, it looks like they're inevitable, especially after. I wonder what has happened, because as I mentioned with mainstream media, CBS News, the morning show had Lue on. Rogan is probably more mainstream media than the outlets themselves. More people are listening to him than a lot of these things. And then NewsNation. And I get it. Look, I get we're in election time right now, but no stories about this guy. And as I'm going to bring up on tomorrow's show, even if you think it's like BS, here's a guy that said he worked for. This is a story in general. It's a story for a news network. Let's say you think it's BS. Here's a guy who said he worked for this program. I don't believe that he did. And if he did, I'm going to challenge him, and I have him on the show. Sir, you claim this. Well, I challenge you with this. Sir, I claim. It's a story. It's a guy who said he was working for the government for years, who's claiming that he has proof that we are not alone. And he's not just some guy that just showed up on the street. This is a guy that if you did the work, he worked inside the government. It's very questionable that no major news outlets are covering this. Why? It's a question we ask on this show all the time, and we're going to ask it a lot more on tomorrow's show, so we hope that you join us. I have mentioned to you guys, we started a channel membership. We have about 13 of you right now. It's awesome. So we do exclusive content there for those members. It doesn't take away from any of the videos that we do here. So, oh, great, you're charging us now? No. Every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, same videos. Even if I never told you we had memberships, you wouldn't even know anything changed, because the only thing that changed is that people get some bonus stuff. And you can always help us out with our sponsors. If you want to get one of our wonderful sponsors, I'll tell you about both of them right now. Thanks for joining us, and join us tomorrow for UAP Tuesday. Appreciate it, and we'll see you later. Bye. This episode of Down to Earth with Kristian Harloff is sponsored by BetterHelp. Let me ask you, what are your self-care non-negotiables? What is it, that you never skip a leg day or therapy day? Because when your schedule is packed with kids' activities, big work projects, and more, it's easy to let your priorities slip. Because even when we know what makes us happy, it is hard to make time for it. But when you feel like you have no time for yourself, non-negotiables like therapy are more important than ever. Therapy is very important. I've been in that position, man, when I haven't talked and I've let things bottled up, and it is not a good thing. You got to talk to people. And we've had people on our show that have said, listen, we've needed to speak to people. We had an opportunity to, and BetterHelp has been there for a lot of people very close in my life. Because if you don't know, it's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient, it is flexible, and it is suited to your schedule. All you have to do is you fill out a brief questionnaire, you get matched with a licensed therapist, and you switch therapists anytime, no additional charge. Never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. You got to visit betterhelp.com/DTE today. You get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/DTE. Guys, thanks for watching the show. Really appreciate you being here. And I wanted to give you an opportunity to hear about somebody I love, and that's Factor. Factor, to me, the meals are just delicious. And with sunny days here, fueling up with Factor there's no prep, there's no mess meals. Meet your wellness goals in time for summer thanks to the menu of chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus. Factory's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved, and they're ready to eat in just 2 minutes. So no matter how busy you are, you'll always find time to enjoy nutritious, great tasting meals. I cannot tell you guys, we have been working on this studio. We have been doing stuff, and Brett, who is here, if you don't know Brett is one of the best. He's a producer, and he works on this studio, and he's gotten it looking really, really good. Well, Brett gets hungry. I said, Brett, guess what? I got some good meals for you, and we got Factor. And Brett's been most energy I've seen him running around because he's been eating well with Factor. They have 35 meals and more than 60 add-ons to choose from every week, and you'll always have new flavors to explore. You got to treat yourself to restaurant-quality meals that feature premium ingredients like filet mignon, shrimp, and blackened salmon. So if you head to factormeals.com/DTE50, you use that code DTE50, you'll get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code DTE50 at factormeals.com/DTE50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while subscription is active. Get it. You'll thank me for it. I appreciate it.